Okay, so today we're going to talk about a dish that on the surface seems pretty simple, right? It's just some raw fish, a little lime, maybe some salt. But what if I told you that inside that one bowl, you could find centuries of history, stories of conquest, and the blending of entire cultures? Well, let's peel back the layers and see what ceviche can really teach us.
I know, it sounds like a huge claim. How can one simple dish tell the entire story of a place as vast and complex as Latin America? But stick with me, because by the end of this, I think you'll see that ceviche isn't just food, it's more like a history book you can eat.
So let's just get the basics down first. What is ceviche? Well, at its absolute core, it follows this one universal formula. You take super fresh seafood, you cure it in some kind of acid, usually lime juice, and then you season it up. It's simple, it's elegant, and this basic formula is the starting point for some pretty incredible variety.
Now here's where the real magic happens. It's all about the science. That lime juice isn't just for flavor. It actually starts a chemical process called denaturation. The acid literally rearranges the proteins in the fish, changing them. So while you're not using any heat, the result is that the fish becomes firm and opaque. It basically looks cooked. It's pure kitchen chemistry, and it's kind of brilliant.
So where did this genius idea even come from? Well, this is where the story gets really fascinating because ceviche wasn't just invented by one person. It's actually a remix, a fusion of two completely different worlds. Let's rewind the clock. So before any Europeans arrived, the indigenous peoples along the coasts of Peru and Ecuador were already eating raw fish. They would preserve it with what they had on hand: salt, local chilies, and even fermented juices. Then, boom, the 16th century hits. The Spanish arrive, and they bring things that are completely new to the Americas, including two game changers: citrus fruits and onions. The moment those old world ingredients met the new world technique, modern ceviche was born.
And this just lays it out so perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the indigenous foundation, the whole concept of preserving raw fish, plus the salt and chili. And on the other, you have those transformative Spanish additions, especially the citrus. You absolutely cannot have the ceviche we know and love today without both of these columns coming together. It's the perfect symbol of a new culture being forged.
Okay, so once that core recipe was established, it didn't just stay the same. No way. It started to travel, it adapted, and it took on the unique personality of every single coast it touched. So let's take a quick tour, shall we? And if we're going on a ceviche tour, our first stop has to be Peru. It's pretty much universally considered the birthplace of the modern dish, and trust me, it's a huge point of national pride there. So what makes Peruvian ceviche so special? It's all about speed and freshness. The fish is cubed up and marinated for just a couple of minutes. That's it. This keeps it incredibly tender. Then it's served with these great balancing elements, like sweet potato and a giant starchy corn called choclo. But the real star? That leftover marinade. That punchy, spicy, citrusy juice at the bottom of the bowl. It's called leche de tigre, or tiger's milk, and it is so good, people often drink it on its own like a shot. But as this idea traveled, it really transformed. You head north to Ecuador, and it's a completely different experience. It's more like a brothy, cold seafood soup, often made with tomato juice and even pre-cooked shrimp. Then you go to Mexico, and they marinate the fish for much longer, which makes it perfect for piling onto a crispy tostada with some creamy avocado. See? It's the same core concept, but adapted for totally different tastes and ways of life. And the variety just keeps going. In parts of Central America, you might even find ketchup or Worcestershire sauce in the mix. Head over to the Caribbean and things get tropical with coconut milk and mango. And then down in Chile, the colder Pacific waters give them firmer fish, so their version is usually a little less spicy. The recipe is basically a canvas for local flavors. Okay, so we've seen what it is, where it came from, and all the different ways it's made. But let's pull back for a second. What does all of this mean? What's the bigger story that this one bowl of food is trying to tell us?
Well, for one, ceviche is basically a map of the local environment. The kind of fish they use tells you about the ocean currents right there. The fact that there's mango or coconut milk tells you, hey, you're probably in the Caribbean. The specific chili pepper they use tells you what's growing in the fields nearby. You are literally tasting the geography.
And as we've seen, you can't escape the history. Colonial history is right there in the bowl. This dish is a direct result of the Columbian Exchange. It's an edible reminder of how the encounter between indigenous and European peoples completely and forever changed the Americas.
The story also tells us about migration. As people from Latin America have moved all over the world, they've taken ceviche with them. You can find incredible Peruvian cevicherias in places like Tokyo or Madrid, where they're adapting the dish to local fish and local tastes. The dish travels right alongside its people.
And finally, it's a food of right now, of this very moment. Because it absolutely depends on the freshest possible seafood, ceviche speaks to a whole way of life that's connected to daily markets, to local fishermen, and to coastal communities. It represents a real trust in where your food is coming from.
So when you step back and look at the big picture, it's kind of obvious why this dish became a continental superstar. It really came down to a perfect storm of three things. 1, citrus trees grow pretty much everywhere in Latin America. 2, you've got huge populations living all along the coasts. And 3, in a really hot climate, a delicious, refreshing meal that you don't need a fire to make, that's just a brilliant solution.
So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question. Ceviche tells this incredible story about Latin America, its geography, its history, its people. So think about it. What dish tells the story of your culture? Thanks for joining me.